I want to tell you about a night that I have never full-faced described to anyone, not because I was deliberately keeping it from people, but because the adequate description of it has always felt like it would require more honesty than I have been ready to offer about certain things. And I think I am finally ready, or close enough to ready, that the difference does not matter. And what I want to describe is the specific quality of that night, what it was like to be inside a choice that had two real things on either side of it, not one real thing and one obviously wrong thing, the way choices are sometimes described in retrospect, but two things that were both genuinely real and both genuinely important, and that could not both be had at the same time. And I had to sit with that for an entire night before I understood what I was going to do. The hard side of the choice, I will call it that for simplicity, even though it was more complicated than that phrase suggests, was something I had been carrying for a long time, a feeling and a connection and a possibility that had been real and significant, and that I wanted in the specific way that you want things that feel like they belong to the truest version of yourself, not the version that exists in public or the version that functions within the responsibilities you have been given, but the version that exists in the quiet interior of who you actually are when nothing is performing and nothing is managed. And what was on that side of the choice was genuinely precious to me in a way that I do not use that word lightly to describe. The crown side of the choice, and again I am using a simplification, was not just the title or the position, but everything attached to it. The expectations and the relationships and the trajectory that had been established over years and that I had been part of building and that had meaning for me too. Not external meaning imposed from outside, but meaning I had actually internalized and made my own, meaning I believed in even when it complicated things I also believed in. And the complication of that night was specifically that I believed in both sides, that I was not in a situation where one thing was right and one was wrong, but a situation where two right things were in direct conflict, and I was the person who had to figure out which right thing to honor when honoring one meant giving the other something less than it deserved. I sat with it for the full night, genuinely the full night, not sleeping and not making the kind of distracted, busy movements that usually fill the hours when something significant is happening, just sitting with the actual weight of what I was deciding, letting both sides have their full presence in me without trying to resolve it prematurely, without reaching for the conclusion before I had given the sitting enough time to do what sitting with something difficult is supposed to do. What shifted, and it was a shift rather than a decision in the clean sense of that word, happened somewhere in the early hours before the light changed, in that particular quality of darkness that has its own specific kind of honesty. And what shifted was not that one side suddenly felt more important, but that I became clear about which thing I was more able to live without, which is a different calculation than which thing I wanted more, because wanting and being able to live without are not the same measurement, and the second one is actually the more important one when you are trying to understand what you are genuinely capable of sustaining over the long shape of a life. I picked the crown. I want to say this in a way because I think that is the only way to say it without making it sound better or worse than it really was. I picked the crown, which meant I was choosing against what my heart wanted in that situation. I have been living with this choice. I have found real meaning in it. I have built things around it. I have not regretted it in the way I thought I would. I have not forgotten what I gave up either. I have not been able to make the hard part of this choice go away just because I did not pick it. I think this is how it is. When you make a choice, it costs you something real. Just because you made the right choice, it does not mean the cost goes away. It just becomes a part of you, something you carry with you. It is something that you do not need to fix, it is something you need to be honest about. Some things in life are not meant to be fixed, they are just meant to be carried by people who are willing to say they made a real choice between two real things and that it cost them something they still remember. I picked the crown. It cost me something, but it is a part of me now.